Good evening. Welcome to the Late Late Show with me, Irish Tommy. And as always, I'm joined with a special guest this week. It's Luke. How are you, mate?
I'm good. Hello, people. How are you, mate? You all right?
Yeah, good. Thanks. Yeah, looking forward to having another good chat with you. It's been a minute.
It's been a while, hasn't it, mate? It has been a minute. It's life gets in the way and work and
Yeah,
etc. So, but thank you for inviting me on tonight. It's good to be back on.
yeah, great to have you back. So I'll just have a quick look and see who's in the chat. So Randy is back. Randy's a regular. Good to see you, mate. We'll get into all that stuff, Randy. I promise you. Um, Randy, yeah, he's busy. Randy, usual. Look, as Tommy Burrows still has watched. 2 minutes past 10. I started the stream. Jesus, usual. He's got no patience. That man, does he? He's like, let's go. No messing about from usual, is there? Um, Thanks for
Yeah.
joining, mate. Good to see you.
Oh,
Um, yeah, but yeah. Look, the thumbnail is basically about corners turned, which I think is kind of the big question at the moment. Now, I'll be honest, I was actually working um, during the Ipswich game. I did have the stream on actually on my phone in the van, but obviously can't watch it because I'm mostly driving. But I could hear what was going on and get a feel for the game. Um, did you watch the whole game, or were you at it? Or
I was at the game. Um,
all right,
it was
excellent.
interesting actually because I thought that was one of our um, you know better performances of the season. But I also at the same time expected more from Ipswich. You're talking about a team who had a really tough start to the season, then went on to have four, competitive draws in the league, and that was by far probably the most comprehensive performance of the season. We put them to the sword, and yeah, it was refreshing to see that from us to look confident in front of goal, confident from the way we played overall. So yeah, it was good. It was good to witness a game like that. It didn't. I don't know how anyone else feels like this, but it felt like we didn't really need to get out of second gear, which is like a comfort, if you know what I mean. It's like okay, right, that's good to know. We've got that in our locker. So yeah, it was good to see winning ways and playing well. And like I said, maybe there's a corner turned. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, so just so you know, I don't know if you've come across this chat before, so I'll just give you a heads up. He does like to chime in these shows. He has as you can see from the name and stuff, he has a bit of a boner for David Moyes. So he's very anti Lopetegui, let's put it that way, and he can be a bit trolly. He can be a bit saucy with the messages, slagging people, which is fine. He'll have to, say something really, really out of the way. I don't really block people unless they're doing something really out of the way. But nobody was saying we've definitely turned a corner. We're simply asking the question: um, Is it possible? Now, like you, obviously, look. I think most fans, in fairness, are cautious. Um, it was Ipswich. They have.
Yeah, I've just seen a comment down there. I don't mean to interrupt you, mate, but this whole thing of it is switch. Let's not go too over the top. They've just drawn with Aston Villa. They've got they're playing well in their games. They drew 0-0 to Brighton. If you're going purely off results, right? I think when they played Man City, that was the same scoreline. Man City 4-1, and they only lost 2-0 at home to Liverpool. They're a good team. They're playing well. They're not they're no mugs is what I'm trying to say. And there's no easy games in the Premier League. I know obviously Sheffield United were pretty easy to beat last season, but when you go into these games, we've not looked confident in a lot of our games this season. We've snatched a draw away to Fulham, etc. And when it comes to what do people want? There's no real easy team to play in the Premier League, and when you do face a team that are, let's say, easy or easier, you've still got to do the job. and we did the job. We literally did what everyone was asking us to do. Ipswich at home, let's go beat them. Let's go beat them well. Let's play well. So we did all that, and I think people have got to give credit where it's due. So I'm not having to go at anyone, but I do find it kind of funny that West Ham do what's asked of them, and suddenly we're not allowed to even congratulate that because it's only this team, it's only that team. What do people expect? You know, to just win 1-0 and then everything be the same? I don't know. It's Ipswich at home, but you know they're no mugs. So we've done our job and roll on Spurs away for me.
Yeah, I suppose in a way it was almost a no-win situation really for Lopetegui.
Yeah.
You know, if we come out and play well and beat them 4-1, then it's like, well, you know, it was only Ipswich. You know, it's going to take more than beating Ipswich well at home to convince me of anything. And whereas if we'd struggled against them and, you know, shithoused a 1-0 win or something, then he'd get absolute pelters. So I suppose it wasn't. I suppose it wasn't a game really where he was going to convince too many people, and myself included, I must say. Obviously, very happy with the 3 points. Very happy we were able to knock in 4 goals. One of our better performances this season, maybe our best overall performance.
Yeah.
Over 90 minutes. So, you know, it's all still good. You know, they're all positives. But again, there is still, even with me, that feeling of, okay, I'm not going to get carried away. It was Ipswich at home. We shall see. I think I need, and probably most people will say, we will find out at Tottenham next weekend. Like if we go away to Tottenham and play really well there, then we might be able to say, okay, maybe we are actually up and running now, because they're playing well, Tottenham. You know, they're not in poor form, Tottenham. They're playing pretty well. So,
well, if we go by that logic, they played well and were 2-0 up against Brighton, and then they went and lost 3-2. And then last season as well, we shit housed the 2-1 win there, and everyone was really happy because it Spurs. It doesn't matter. It's Spurs away. As long as you beat Spurs, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So again, there's another clause in that game because you know.
Yeah. Well, I think there's 2 sides to that though, right? One is the result, right? Anytime you play Tottenham, especially at their place, and you turn them over, you're very, very happy. And you know, whatever, however you win it, like I say, even shithouse a win, 1-0, who cares? You know, Obiang hits an absolute screamer out of nowhere. You know,
Yeah.
You know, so however you do it, It's brilliant. But you can take that almost separately from how did we perform, right? You can be delighted with the result, but still say, yeah, how the fuck we won that? We were pretty damn bad. So I think there's, you know, nuance to it. So the important thing is, because it's Tottenham, you just want to can beat them.
Yeah.
But I think, as regards, have we potentially turned a corner and we're going to start seeing better performances on top of more wins, will come down to kind of performance. Do we turn up at Tottenham next week and actually really put it up to these guys? Which I think we should be able to do. You know, given the players we've got, we should be able to go there, put it up to Tottenham, give them a right game of it, and feel coming out of it, yeah, you know, that was really good as well tonight. Maybe we have turned the corner here, but I think it will take that really. Like if we go up there and stink the place out, the Ipswich game will count really for nothing. Apart from the 3 points we got, obviously.
Yeah,
but as regards people's optimism going forward. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, sorry, I've you carry on, sorry. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is that there is that thing of, you know, again, I think like we had it last season, is that, you know, Spurs away, you want to see a good performance, of course you do. But then is there that thing of like, you know, you played well but you've lost or you've drawn or you've, you know, they've snatched something when they shouldn't have or whatever. So, you know, I think we're in this precipice now of like, everyone's waiting to jump on it, or they're waiting to give it time. You know, it's almost like the Moyes in, Moyes out bit now. It's like this Lopetegui, like, where do you stand? Do you go that we've lost, but it's early in the season, or are you right? We've lost, so he's not good enough. Let's get someone else in. So, you know, I think I'd like us to see us play well against Spurs, but again, you know, I'm going there as well. So I want us to see us win. The last thing I want to do is walk out of Spurs when we've lost, even though we've played well. So it's a difficult one for me, and I always want to see West Ham win, of course. So let's see us play well fundamentally. I am giving it all time. I'm not jumping on any back. You know, like everyone else, I want to see that there's improvements being made as we go along, because I'm not expecting it to be you know, I don't know if anyone knows this, but the Chelsea manager came out recently and said that he doesn't know his best 11. He's probably going to take him a season to because obviously they've signed way more players than we have, even though we've signed a lot. Yeah. But he said no. So there's no way I could know my first 11 even now, because what he was getting at was that, yeah, okay, you can see on paper a great team, you can see in training a great team, but what happens is that players develop throughout the season. So Cole Palmer scored 4 goals last week against Brighton, but he might not score now for another five games. He might still be playing well, but then he might start bringing on players on the bench who start scoring, thinking, hold on, do I play Palmer for another 5 games because he ain't scoring, or do I play this guy who's coming on and scoring, looking better? Duran for Aston Villa is scoring more goals than Watkins at the moment. He's looking best. Does Emery one game goes, do you know what? I could do with Duran starting now and not Watkins. So it's all nothing on paper. But, you know, Antonio, for example, a lot of people are criticising him. I've criticised him in the past. I think he's playing okay this season. I think he could do better. But he had a great game against Ipswich, and you know, he's a man that you wouldn't want to rely on for a whole 90-minute game. And you know, suddenly against Ipswich, he plays out of his skin. There's a manager who goes, right, I fancy Bowen and Kudus on, you know, for Tottenham away and put so I want to see us play well, and I'm willing to give it time. I just think in a minute everyone's a bit emotional about the state, and that's fair enough. That's football. People are passionate, etc. So I'm over the moon we beat Ipswich. I'll be over the moon if we beat Spurs. To be honest with you, however it comes, I'd love to play well at the same time. But you know, I'll take a win against Tottenham, however it comes. After that, maybe the jury's out. I don't know, for me personally, but I will give it, as I have been, you know, give it time and see how it goes.
Yeah, I think I probably agree with Maresca. I understand where it's coming from. If it's your first season, it might take you a while to nail down exactly your 11. But I'm pretty sure if you ask Maresca, he'd say, yeah, I know 8. You know, I know 8 of my 11, and I know their positions, but there are still a couple of places up for grabs. You know, I might have 2 players for that position. I'm still not quite sure which one of them I prefer there. But he's clearly got them organized in the way he wants them to play and the way he sets them up. All the players know exactly what they're doing, whereas we've looked a bit of a mess, to be honest. Our players have often looked like they haven't got a clue what they're supposed to be doing. It's all a bit higgledy-piggledy. So we'll see. But I think you should have the bones of the squad sorted out, and I'm not sure I think he knows. I think he pretty much knows his back 4 now. I think it is kind of Emerson, Todibo now, I think, as well, probably. Obviously Kilman and Aaron Wan-Bissaka. So I think that is most likely to be the 4 we continue to see. And I think Alvarez is an interesting one. Do you think Alvarez was benched deliberately as if to say, can't do that, mate? You can't pick up stupid second yellow cards like that and get suspended. So you're going to sit this one out. You're going to be on the bench even though you're back from suspension.
Oh, right. I thought he was suspended. It was, how many games was he suspended?
He was suspended for 1. He was available. He could have started against Ipswich. He wasn't injured.
I'm not sure how the rule works with that, actually, because of the whole straight red and second yellows. I'm a bit unaware of that, which is Good for me being on the YouTube channel, isn't it? There could have been. It's strange for me because as far as I was aware, Rodriguez was signed as cover for Alvarez, not to be a starter, and it would be. I didn't think Souček would be starting as much as he is, but he is because clearly he's a teacher's pet, if you like. I think he's definitely one of those guys, which is fair enough if he contributes. We opened a bit of games against Ipswich, by the way, but I don't know if he's. There's a lot of people that there seems to be this kind of camp where you're pro Alvarez, not Alvarez, because you've got to understand the sort of player that he is. I think he's useful. I'm an Alvarez fan because I like players that like to put their foot. Modern football for me is too contactless, if you get what I mean. I like to see a player put in a tackle or higher tackle, especially in one of these big games you get, say against a Man United or Man City or a Liverpool, etc., where you need something to go, right, we're not going to let you walk all over us, we're going to let you know we're there. Unfortunately, football's moved into this bit now where you can't even tackle cleanly. If it's too intense, you get called upon. And he's one of those players that's suffering for that. And it might just be that he's a Scholesy, where he's a midfield general that can't tackle if his life depended on it.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate, like, it's like the Liverpool game. Like, okay, like he made a mistake, like he shouldn't have gone in, but at least he had the intention of, I want to make this tackle to help the team out. Could have been an ounce of frustration where he's just gone, do you know what, I'm having you. If I get booked.
Just going to crunch this fucking fella, yeah. I used to love. We had players who used to do that all the time.
Julian Dix, and then
time, like younger fans might not remember this, but there was a time, you don't have to go back too far either, where we had players that liked to fucking crunch someone, like just put one on someone early doors, just let them know you're there and stuff. And I used to love that. Like Julian Dix used to crunch people all the time.
Thomas Repka was another one, I think, wasn't he? He was one, after Dix, he was a bit of
I think Alvarez, though, is kind of more, he has a bit more Repka in him than Julian Dix, I think.
I think the problem with Alvarez, I'll be honest with you, I think because we're not up and running playing decent football. Like when I say decent football, I mean like at the minute we kind of seem under the cosh when we play football. It's like we've got to try and get a counter attack going, or we've got to try and get out of being bombarded by the opposition or something like that. We're not playing very well at the minute overall consistently, and I think he's a player with great technical ability. And in fact, I actually think he's got good vision on him. I think we saw a few times last season where he could put a ball like Paqueta does over the top, for an ongoing attacker. He's got a bit about him. I think if we played a better style of football with a bit more confidence and we spent a bit more time in the opposition half, more than we have done, we would see his technical ability flourish. But at the minute, it seems to be that he's trying to cover for people or trying to make it to rash challenge. He doesn't necessarily need to, but because he feels like he needs to do it for the team, he does it. I'm not sure whether Lopetegui's a fan. I think I can't work him out, to be honest. Lopetegui, I think he's a bit of a psycho. I think he's a nutter. I think our manager, our head coach, is a nutter. I think you can see it on the sidelines as a hothead. And I don't know the bloke, madam. Interviews he comes off quite well, and then you see him on the sidelines, this Jekyll and Hyde. So I'm trying to work out where he comes from. His subs are quite erratic at times.
Yeah.
So trying to work out whether he likes a certain player or not is a bit difficult at the moment.
Yeah. I think it could be one of these where sometimes Lopetegui seems to have to find out things the hard way.
Yeah, I agree.
He's a bit hard-headed, and it's hard to change his mind, I think, on certain things. And I think he possibly will have to find out the hard way that Alvarez is a lot better than Rodriguez.
Yeah, I think they're completely different players, to be honest with you. I think if you're looking for an ultimate technical game, I think Rodriguez is the man to go for over the two. I think because he's just looked cool, a bit more cool, calm, and collected. But unfortunately, he's playing I don't think he's quite up to speed with the Premier League, like as in get the ball out your feet as quick as possible, rather than taking an extra second to develop a move or whatever, or pass. So I think I like him. I think he's a good player, but I don't think he's what we need right now, especially to start. But then Alvarez, is a different kettle of fish as well. But I think they're completely different players. Personally, for me, they are.
Yeah, I think Alvarez is absolute quality. and I think with some players you just have to take the rough with the smooth.
Mm.
But I think the fact that Rodriguez is there as a backup means maybe you can just accept the fact that, okay, Alvarez is probably going to be suspended for a handful of games this season. Like, personally, away at Tottenham, if Alvarez fucking crunches Madison early doors and takes a yellow, I'm absolutely here for it. I'll be honest.
Yeah, okay.
I'm
Yeah,
not going to be mad about it. Let's
yeah.
put it that way. But I absolutely love Alvarez. I do think he's a quality player. Yeah, he can be a bit rash sometimes. He loves to go in with a tackle. But I don't mind it, to be honest. I actually think I must go back and look at his record. It's probably not as bad as we think. We sometimes in our heads we think of a player in a certain way. We think, oh, he's always getting sent off. He's probably only has he gotten any straight reds for us that you can think of? I think it's almost always been like an accumulation.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 yellows the other week, but I think it's almost always been like an accumulation. He gets to those 5 yellows and he's suspended for a game, and then later in the season he gets to the 10 and he's suspended for a couple of games. And but to be fair, I don't think he's had much by way of actual sending offs.
I don't think they're dangerous tackles either. I think he just
No.
he goes in for a challenge. He might be a bit late, or I wouldn't say they're like you go as a bad one.
I don't remember him going in 2-footed high on anyone or.
No, not for me. I don't think either. I think he's just a bit unlucky with his timing, for example.
Yeah, it's usually been just mistimed tackles where he's trying to win. I think he's always trying to win the ball, But I love Alvarez, and I just hope, that the sending off didn't kind of just piss Lopetegui off to the point where, I'm going to teach you now, you're going to sit on the bench against Ipswich. Hopefully he'll get him back in for the Tottenham game, because we're going to need him in there for the Tottenham game. We really are. He needs to be playing in the number 6. But we'll see. The other thing is what to do with Lucas Paqueta. I mean, this to me is kind of a much more difficult one for Lopetegui. Obviously, there's a lot going on there. There seems to be more and more stuff coming out all the time. Recent one now is the Brazilian FA are looking into all these allegations as well. There might be repercussions for him there. They might suspend him from the national team for now, or who knows what. They might ban him from playing in Brazil. Who the hell knows? The Spanish FA as well are looking into this link with this other Brazilian striker that was playing for Real Betis that had money sent to him from Paqueta's uncle, Bruno, and all this. So there's so much going on right now.
Plot thickens.
Yeah, and none of it looks particularly good for Lucas Paqueta. And I think it's fair to say he's not been the same Lucas Paqueta, I feel, since these allegations came out. Or rather, I should say, since he's been charged by the Premier League. His head is definitely affected, which is fair enough. I can completely understand. His career appears to be on the line here. This may be the last season he ever plays professional football. And he's 27, so he's in his prime. So I can imagine if it was me, there would be almost nothing else in my head, all the time. And it would be very, very difficult to perform at the highest level. So, I mean, first of all, do you think that's probably why his form hasn't been great? I'm not saying he's been terrible all the time, but it hasn't really been. We haven't seen that pump, have we, from him?
No, he's lost the ball at times. His head has been. You can. It's almost like you think there's something up with him, and you almost forget that he's under an investigation because you're just into the football. And then about 2 days after a game, the investigation news will resurface. Oh yeah, that makes sense. That's why he's not playing very well. But it's interesting because at the start of the season, as much as I've slagged off David Moyes for ages, there was a part of me that thought, do you know what? Certain players look better under him. I've got to hold my hands up and say Kudus looked better, Bowen looked better, Paqueta and Emerson worked better, under him. I know we've improved the last game, But overall, start the season, some of these players just haven't been the same players as they have been over the last 2 seasons, or probably even longer. So that was my first.
Well, I think though the Paqueta one goes back.
Yeah, no, I'm
when the allegations come out when Moyes was still here, he definitely didn't seem like he was the same player after he was charged.
No, it's a difficult one because realistically, if you're thinking about mentality of a player, and you're saying a player can tell you they're fine as much as they want, but you can tell with their physical actions whether they are or not. And if you're a club that's playing in the Premier League where literally every point matters, James,
how's it going, man?
Oh, mate,
all good, son.
If you're in the if you're to make a point quickly, if you're playing the Premier League where every point matters, every goal matters, every mistake gets punished almost, right? Yes, Paqueta on his day, he's one of our best players, but fundamentally, if you're thinking yourself, this guy's head isn't in it completely, really, you should drop him. You should take him out. You should put someone else in because you need every player to be on top of their game for 90 minutes and or however long they're going to play. And if his head isn't in it, then it doesn't matter really who they are. If they're going to be playing at half capacity, then really they're not fit to play. They're not fit to start mentally. I've got all the sympathy in the world for him if he's suffering. I hope people are around him, are helping him, are making sure that mental health is his biggest thing these days, and hopefully that if he is suffering, he needs to get some help. But, if he performs well, great. I'm happy for him and the club because it's a benefit to both parties. But if this is affecting him really badly and he's not playing well, it's not good for either party. So I think he's worth having in the squad because maybe a half fit mentally Paqueta is better than having another player in there who isn't as good as him. I don't know if that's the situation, but at the minute it doesn't help anyone. And I've watched a few YouTube videos and people are saying the club of what almost like they're washing their hands with the situation because they don't really want to get involved, which I think is a bit harsh. But then also it's a business in the day to a massive degree, and maybe West Ham got every right to just say, look, ain't our problem, mate. You're on your own. Sort it out yourself. If you want to go that way. So it's a bit it's disappointing the way it's gone, and there is a part of the thing. If you've only got a limited amount of time left to play in your career, then on one hand you kind of want to go, I want to make the best of the last few months of my career. I want to go out on a high. But there is a part of you that thinks, well, if there's a chance that I can get a career after this because the investigation finds no guilt, etc., and you're just waiting for it to go over so you can start playing again, then that's going to go the opposite way. It could go the opposite way. So I hope this gets done as quick as possible. But there is a part of me that is being a little bit harsh and kind of goes, well, if he's not playing at full mental capacity, he needs to get dropped because it's not good for either party. If he's playing and he's not feeling good about himself, it's not helping anyone, is it? So I don't know. I don't really know what to say about the situation, but I feel it's like it's not helping either party at the minute. Glad he scored against Ipswich, though. I'm glad he scored and he played better. And, I don't think anyone wants to see anyone play bad in the West Ham shirt. So as long as he's doing that, I'll fully back him. Hopefully things improve for him mentally, etc.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one, James, isn't it, really, for all involved? Because, if you're the club, you want to support the guy. You want to say, look, we're here for you. We're all a family. We're all behind you, and try and perk him up, try and keep his spirits up. And I'm sure the manager will be trying to do the same thing on the training ground. His teammates will be trying to keep his head up, keep supporting him. And from the manager's point of view, you've got a massive talent there who can be a huge help to you winning games. But ultimately, you have to decide if this guy's head is really in the game or if he's too distracted for you to ever really get the best of him. And whether from a purely a team perspective, his performances don't warrant him having a place on the pitch. I mean, it's easy if his performances are really good and you're happy with his performances and he's contributing enough. I can keep playing this guy. But if it gets to the point where you're thinking, fucking hell, I've got players I like on the bench here. He's not performing. Maybe I'll give Soler a chance. It's a tough situation with Paqueta to handle, James, really.
Oh, yeah, 100%, mate. Listen, I was just listening to what you were saying about Paqueta, and he hasn't been right for a year. I would say, like last time he played well was December the 14th or 15th last season.
To the day.
And I know that because that was my birthday weekend. That was Wolves at home and a 3-0 win. We got
Do
3
you
assists.
mean when he was at the top of his game? Because I doubt it was the last time he played well.
That is the last time he played well, mate. Maybe another time that he played well. He can't because he hasn't played like maybe against Bristol City for 8 minutes before he got injured. Other than that, he hasn't played really well for a long time. Not for a long time. We need him, but do we need to carry him? That's the $1 million question. Do you know what I mean? Is he worth carrying? Now, at present, you got Lopetegui there, who is very, very mixed. People are mixed on him at the minute. I'm mixed on him. Some people love him. Some people want to give him time. Some people want him out the door. So I don't know. With Paqueta, if he's not cutting it in the Prem and he's not doing it, he deserves to get dropped like any man. Like he shouldn't be on the team sheet because he's Lucas Paqueta, Brazilian international. Now the Brazilians have had enough of him. Some West Ham fans have had enough of him. Where'd you go with him? Like you don't continuously play the geezer if he's going to be. If we're going to keep carrying the geezer, that's the only problem with him.
There is also the issue you have that the more time goes by, the more it seems he won't be here next season. Now, the latest is that this probably won't be concluded, as in a decision made and a potential suspension until around probably April. The case is not expected to be heard until March, so a decision would probably be more like April. So it's essentially nearly the whole season that we probably will have him available to us. But we also have to understand, okay, this is not going to get any better, it seems, between now and then, and we may lose him for nothing before the end of the season, shortly before the end of the season. So you have to think about the long term as well. It's like, okay, what do we do about the situation now? Look, I'm sure Tim Stoyton and Lopetegui and all the relevant people are speaking to each other saying, look, realistically, we're probably not going to have this guy next season. So the question is, kind of, do you find his replacement from within the squad now? Whether you think that's Soler, or whether you think it could potentially be Kudus going central or Guilherme coming in and saying, right, we need this solution right now because his head's not going to get any better. His performances are probably not going to get any better. We need to move on from him now. Again, it's tough, but I mean, there has some of that thinking and some of those conversations have to be being had behind the scenes, I'd imagine.
Yeah, they're well, it's a little bit. I've been saying the same kind of thing where Lopetegui and Steidten being concerned because, you know, little example would be that Lopetegui's watched this for 6 months before he got the job. He's now got all these players and, you know, he's meant to have an idea of how he wanted to, you know, take things at West Ham and poor start to the season. There's a few excuses here and there. Like, well, you've had enough time to look at it, mate. So, you know, you've had all the support and all the time to prepare yourself. So here's what it is. And this is the same sort of situation with Paqueta, is that they've known about this investigation. They've known they will clearly know about where his mental state is because of the way he reacts on the training ground, in the changing room, etc. People will be talking about it. So there has to. I would imagine. I'd be very surprised if there wasn't a hands-on approach to this situation because let's face it, he's one of the better players on the team. So you're looking at a top asset in the team that's not maybe producing what you want him to produce, and there's a problem there. And you know, if there's, you know, Soler's meant to be a kind of not an exact replacement, but he of the same ilk. Kudus could maybe. I think he played there for Ghana the other night in the attacking midfield or the 10 role or whatever it was, and apparently
he pretty much always plays there for Ghana.
Yeah, which I wouldn't be against him playing there. There is the left field option, which is, you know, get a youth player in to, you know, slowly but surely, you know, sort of mould him into that role. So if he does go, we've got a better replacement or someone who.
Well, I think we had maybe George Earthy, who I wouldn't have loaned out this season if I'm completely honest. This would have been the season where I like Soler. I think he looks like a decent player, but I'd much rather see George Earthy being given those minutes, if I'm honest, in that position. But I guess that's another discussion.
This is, I use it as a second example, if I would, of any player that football now works in a contingent. Well, good teams, good owners, and people who are in control of football clubs will have contingency plans. So, say for example, we sold Bowen in the summer, and everyone loses their mind because they want our best player or whatever has been sold. Well, the best idea for West Ham to be doing was spend the season scouting and maybe sign, I don't know, 2 or 3 players from maybe the Danish league or Championship, or players that can might be about, I don't know, a fraction of the cost of what Bowen is, and then it could maybe fill that role in 3 or 4 years' time, for example. That's the way a lot of Brighton, I think, do it that way. Brentford like to do it that way. So contingency plans are what the club, I think, should be doing, because to sell best players or to have players that aren't playing well and then go, oh, what do we do? Is the only option in that position in midfield, not have any backup or any plan B for them? I think in modern football is a bit stupid. It's a bit naive. So I would like to think that if he does get banned, whatever happens in the future, the West Ham go, right, he can go in, we can do this, we can do it, we can do that. I'd like to think West Ham are that sort of club now, but maybe I'm being a bit naive myself.
No, they're not that club, mate.
Right.
I love your optimism, son.
No, I'm not saying.
They're not. They can't even get the fucking striker right. Let's have it right. So let's not get ourselves to a point. Now we've done a whole summer of chasing for a striker, and we still haven't really got one who's long term. All our strikers are short term strikers. Listen, I get it to a point. Lucas Paqueta is a good player, but if you've got a player that's not confident, then he's as good as useless to us at the minute. Now, there's 2 sides of the coin we're looking at with Lucas Paqueta. You either play him into form and get him going from that way, or you let him sit out for a few games and let him sort himself out. Now, we don't know what the mentality of the man is. Is he a strong enough man to come in and go, right, I'm going to work through this, and maybe having football will be the benefit of him? He's going to get banned. I think we've got to come to the conclusion that he's definitely going to get banned for something, because they've definitely got something on him. Otherwise, they wouldn't let this continue on for so long. He's going to get banned, I reckon, for about a year, maybe 2 at the most. I don't think it's going to be a lifetime ban, because I think they would have pushed the case further forward and got this done.
Yeah, last year.
Yeah, and so I reckon he's going to get banned. In regards to sort of signings and things like that, I understand the long-term vision, but this is not a long-term vision with Lopetegui. This is a short-term vision, 2-year deal with a man that's trying to get us into Europe in 2 years. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think next summer is a big summer for West Ham. Wherever we lose, we're going to have to recruit well. Now, there's 2 sides of it. You can look on the one side is we are shopping in a high-end market. We're looking at quality players. Duran. There's been other strikers there that we've been looking at. Like before that, there's Cole Palmer. We're looking at good quality. Yeah, so that is a plus. But West Ham have to get these signings over the line and in a claret and blue shirt, and keep missing out on them is a bit of a pain in the arse to a point. Do you know what I'm saying? It is though, mate. Like, let's be real. How many times do we keep missing out on talent, and then we're going for someone like, listen, Nicholas Füllkrug's a good player, right? But is he a long-term vision of West Ham United? He ain't. Like, he's come here to get us into Europe within 2 years. It's as simple as that. And we're going to lose Antonio and Ings next year on a free. So we're going to have to go out there and at least.
I reckon we'll keep Antonio on. He seems to be one of the sort of players that always just seems to just. Yeah.
It would not surprise me. They offer him a year deal. No, it wouldn't surprise me.
I agree.
So,
yeah. But look, I know Antonio gets a lot of crap, and I've been critical of him often. But the one thing I think I have a lot of respect for Antonio. I think he's been fantastic at West Ham. I understand his limitations, particularly as a number 9. But I think if you look at Antonio's body of work at West Ham since he signed from Forest, I think he's been an absolutely fantastic player for us. And whenever he goes on the pitch, You know, he just gives absolutely everything, despite his shortcomings. He's also done some really brilliant stuff on the pitch. He's one of those really frustrating players where he can be the best and worst player on the pitch in the same game.
Yeah.
You know, he'll roll the defender and then do something absolutely top class, and he'll absolutely kind of terrorize centre backs, which you really love watching and really enjoy watching. And you see the effort he puts in. The amount of running he's done for this club is unbelievable. The amount of effort he's put in, often thankless task. So I'm not going to slag Antonio. I love him. I think he's brilliant. His attitude, I think, is wonderful, and he has done some fantastic things at the club. But I think it would be an error to retain him beyond this season. I do think this should be his final season at this kind of level. I just don't think he's got the legs for it anymore. I think even this season, realistically, he should be coming on as a super sub, 20, 25 minutes, the end of a game against firing defenders. I think he can have a lot of joy, The problem for me is when you start him in games, the defenders are fresh and he's fresh and they can kind of handle him relatively well, and he tires out long before the defenders do.
Yeah,
and the longer the game goes on, the easier it becomes for them to deal with Antonio. But I think a fresh Antonio coming on against tiring defenders can cause absolute chaos, just absolute mayhem. And I think that's where we should be using him. But either way, I think this probably should be his last season at the club. And certainly, I think, he would get an unbelievable send-off, in our final game. I know it's away at Ipswich, our final home game. I can't remember who it is, but I think he would get an unbelievable send-off in that game. And rightly so. I wouldn't retain him beyond this season. I think if the funds are there, I mean, Stoyton should be working his bollocks off right now to find us that centre forward that we need, if possible, in January. I mean, the sooner the better.
Do you think he's made a mistake though, Stoyton, in that?
Massive.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, if the first two things Stoyton should have done at the start of the summer, instead of fucking swanning off to Brazil, trying to sign all these players, Wesley and fucking Bruno, centre back, and Guilherme and all that, he should have immediately done everything he could straight away to get that John Duran deal done. Get it done early doors, get him in, get that done. And then go left wing. I think the Somerville deal was a much more straightforward one that was always going to get done. There were no real obstacles to signing Somerville, so we could have gotten that done pretty quickly early doors. But I think, if you think about the money we spent on Guilherme and Fulkrug, I mean, that pays for Duran. Pretty much pays for Duran. So I think that was a huge error. And the time goes by, the bigger an error it looks.
The thing is, we don't know how good Fulkrug's going to be at West Ham. None of us know yet, because obviously we haven't seen him. Yeah, he might come back, and if he starts banging in goals, it looks like a good signing. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The issue I've got with it is that Stoyton was here for well over a year. Obviously, the first year he gets Kudus, Alvarez, Mavropanos. That was his three. Yeah. I would have thought he would have been pinpointing at least 3 or 4 targets of quality. And then to go for Fulkrug, who was there, who was available, I think it's like, I don't want to say it's a panic buy, but it feels like one. It feels like we couldn't get no one else, so we're going for him and we're going to pin our hopes on him. Now listen, I don't look at him as the problem. I look at, obviously, the Lopetegui 2-year deal as a problem, because you're trying to get these players in to get us into Europe within 2 years. So it's a tricky one, isn't it? Let's be honest. But the Duran deal could have got done before the Luiz deal got done to Juventus, because they was in FFP problems. And if we would have acted fast then and said, right, we want Duran, you're looking to sell, I think we'd have got him out of there for 40 mil easily. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's gutting, really, but it is what it is.
I think it would be a bit harsh to let Antonio go at the end of the season, because Tommy, you've literally described the problem with him And I think that, it's not his fault he gets played. It's not his fault he gets started and then gets played for longer than he should. We all know, realistic, every West Ham fan there knows how Antonio should be used. It's not his problem that he gets started like it is. There's no one in that team, apart from maybe Kudus, his structure and his speed and his power, that can match Antonio. And there's a reason why he's being played up front again. Whether or not he plays well, there's obviously a reason why they managed to trust him. Now, if we go out, I'm not saying we'll do this. I'm just saying that if Antonio is out of contract in the summer, I would keep him on just to be a super sub just to have one more season because it's fine going out and getting Duran, but sometimes if you have strikers with different capabilities and you bring one all off and then say, I don't know, you bring a striker on next season or this season like Ings, they're completely different players, Antonio and Ings, and it's like, okay, well, you're going to bring Antonio off and put Ings on, for example, in a match that might happen this season or whatever, but you've got to then adapt to that striker's abilities, and you don't have to change the way you play to.
But it's the profile, though, Luke. The profile is completely different from John Duran to Nicholas Walker. Age,
I'm not saying
ability.
I'm not. But I'm saying, but where Antonio's concerned is that it's fine to say Antonio shouldn't be kept on next season because all he's being used as a striker. Thinking, well, yeah, okay, but that's not his fault that he's being used.
I agree with you on that. But the way I look at it with him is that should we really be relying on a 34-year-old Mikel Antonio right now?
That's my point. I completely think we shouldn't be relying on him. What I'm saying is to get rid of him next season, when even now he should. Okay, fair enough. Like next season, if he goes right again, I'm going to start you again in 38 games for a season. Then get rid of him because he's being wasted. He's going to be useless to us for the majority of games because he's not being used right. But if we suddenly go right, we're going to use you for what you should be used for, which is a battering ram or a super sub. Keep him on for 2-3 years because it's not going to be the most challenging thing in the world for him to go right. Antonio, give you 10 minutes, go knock and bandy, go give him something to worry about. Keep him on till he can't go anymore, till he retires at the club. Because having someone like that is going to be a fantastic, an asset to the team. And I think he's been a bit. How can I put it? Not unfair because obviously he's playing, so it's not. It's a bit he's been treated a bit harshly by the management because if you're going to go and relentlessly play him until he's dead on the floor and then go right, well he's shit then, isn't he? No, he's not shit. He's not being used correctly. I think he's a fantastic super sub to be made. Unfortunately, that super sub is being started from the start in most games, nearly every game, and that makes him look shit most games because he's knackered. And really that's not how it should be looked at. And I think you could, if you put Ings in there at the start, most people will say exactly the same thing about Ings, going, well, don't play him because you won't play to your strengths and he won't be an asset to us. So I think Antonio is a perfect striker for the Premier League. If you get a player like Duran who's younger, quicker, he's the starter. You start Duran all day long and you bring Antonio on as a sub if you need, if it's going that way. But I wouldn't get rid of him because I think a player like him is useful if used right. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and it kind of got me thinking because we have a director of football now. I think that we can certainly say I would think that Max Kilman was a player that Lopetegui pushed for in the summer. It has Lopetegui's fingerprints all over it for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
I don't think left to his own devices that Stoiton would have gone out and paid 40 million for Kilman. So I'll be honest, I'm a little bit torn about whether we should be doing that or not. Because I've always felt like the director of football, whose job is to create the kind of team philosophy, as it were. Is that this is the kind of football we want to play at this club. This is what we want our identity to be. So, for example, let's say you come in and you say, right, I'm going to kind of reinstate the West Ham way of playing. We want players who are very comfortable in possession, on the ball, on the deck, who can pass the ball, move, easy on the eye, proper, traditional kind of West Ham football, as it were. So I'm going to sign the players that can do that. And then you have a manager who's there saying, well, actually, in this particular position, I really like this player. I worked with him before. Really good player. I know what I'm getting with him. But then you're thinking that player doesn't actually quite fit with what's in here in my head for the way I want us playing going forward. Because I think the director of football should be picking the manager and the players that will play under that manager and get it all synced up. You know what I mean? Get it all in lockstep. Hire a manager that complements all of the players that you've brought in and the squad that you've built. The problem we have at West Ham, as usual, is Sullivan can't keep his fucking nose out.
I was about to say.
So Sullivan ends up pushing for fucking Lopetegui. There's no way Steidman would have hired Lopetegui, in my opinion.
He never.
His own divisive. So Sullivan's almost kind of pushed for this manager to be brought in, and he plays a certain style. And now you're like, oh, fuck's sake, now I've got to buy players that work for this guy.
The problem is, Tommy, just to say this, is that it was never a Steidman appointment. It was a Sullivan appointment. I remember doing videos with you for a long time back in December. And I said, don't be surprised if Lopetegui's coming out. I was saying it was Spaces. I had money on it. I knew Lopetegui was on his way. Yeah. The issue is where people are thinking that Almiron Slot and all that were going to come to West Ham. We can't offer them nothing, mate, at the minute. But we've got no European football. We can't offer them nothing. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, we can look good and
I understand, like the top end managers. I don't expect us to be able to get them. But look, Brighton have done it time and again.
Oh, but Brighton have got a long term project.
They got the managers that would play the way they wanted them to play and that suited the squad that they had built.
Yeah.
Everything is in lockstep with Brighton, which is why it works there. Whereas at West Ham, Sullivan keeps sticking his fucking nose in, kind of forcing a manager really on the director of football. And all that fucks up your whole policy of bringing in certain types of players to play a certain way because it might not work with the manager that the fucking chairman has forced on you. Like, Steidman should be bringing in the manager that works with the players that he's bringing in. Like, should you have a manager saying, I want this 40 million pound centre-back?
It doesn't make no sense, right, when you've got a man who's on a 2-year deal with an option of a 3rd year if he gets Europe. This is not a long-term project. This is a short-term project to try and get us into Europe. Because the situation is, what happens in a year's time, when we're sitting here in a year's time and Lopetegui's in charge, do you offer him a new deal? And there is going to, like, people are not happy with him now. They're going to be like in a year's time with this sort of project. The problem is Sullivan never buys no one out of a contract. I've always said that, and he won't do it. He's too old school. That's like throwing away money to him, and he's not one to throw money away to a point. He'd rather keep it in his bin. So I think what it is with us, we've got to look at ourselves and think, right, we need to get into Europe and then establish ourselves as a European side and then go after a top-end manager. Or go for a younger manager and build it on a 5-year deal. Like, have it over a 5-year plan. Now, if this was a younger manager we brought in and they said, right, for the first 18 months, 2 years, you're going to have a manager where it's going to be transition, you're going to be learning the style of play, etc. You're going to be integrating the youth in there and you're going to be working towards something. I can get it. I can't get it with this Lopetegui thing, mate. I really can't. I want him to do well, but I'm not buying this. I think this is a Pellegrini type thing all over again. Like, we've brought someone in, it looks good, he looks like a shiny new manager and everything else, but this is not a project. And people got to stop saying the project word, because this is not a project. This is get us into Europe as fast as you can, Julian Lopetegui.
It's Sullivan's favourite kind of manager, a manager who's grateful to be in the job.
The thing that I don't get with Steidman's concerned right now, you've got this guy who's got Fabrizio Romano, for example, as a contact. He's heavily renowned around Europe. You know, West Ham have been claimed to be lucky to get him in the first place because he could have gone anywhere and where's right. But Steidman's obviously been told this guy's coming in, right? And if you said, right, I don't want this guy, I want this guy to go, and so no, you're getting this guy. You've got to work with him for 2 years. That's your job. Surely Steidman at some point is going to go, do you know what? I could be anywhere. You're lucky to have me in a minute. If you're not going to get in a manager or a head coach that I can work with, that I want, that I can work with, you're going to specifically go against me to get this guy, I'm off. I'm out of here. You obviously ain't going to listen to me, right? Because with all due respect, Steidman was happily enough to put his arm around Steiden, Lopetegui, and go, "Yeah, we're happy to work with each other. We're going to make West Ham good again. We're going to get him to." He's not. I've backed up Steiden for a long while now, but to be honest with you, if you're going to act all the yes, we're working together very well. We know the targets for this season, what the club needs to achieve. We're all pally. We know what we're doing. And then it comes to the first few games, and suddenly he goes, "Oh, well, I didn't really want him in the first place." No, I'm sorry. You've had long enough. You both brought players in. You both worked with each other through the summer. You both know what the targets were. I think Steiden is just to an extent is just to blame as Lopetegui is and as Sullivan is, because if you know you don't want the guy, if it's coming in anyway. And then it doesn't start. The season doesn't start very well. If you know you're not going to be back because this guy you don't want this guy. You got to work with him anyway. If you're in a position where you could go, I can leave West Ham and go where I want. You would go where you want. Because if you think I don't want this guy, and this guy's going above me and going, well.
But West Ham, I'm going to be real, though. Yeah, I just see what Damien said in the chat, and I don't always agree with Damien, but on this I do. West Ham's a big club in the Premier League, mate. Like, it's very hard for him to go somewhere else and establish himself somewhere else. Now, if he's been told, oh, this is a long-term project, and he's been given all the spiel by Sullivan, why is he not going to believe that? He don't know Sullivan like we do. We all know what David Sullivan's like. The chat knows what Sullivan's like. Even his own son knows what Sullivan's like.
Yeah, we're with all due respect, we're how can I put it? We're outsiders looking in, to an example, right? So we know what they're like. We know what Sullivan's like, but we don't work with them on a day-to-day basis. What I'm saying, like there would be a point where you go, "This is my job." Like this isn't just like we're passionate about West Ham, etc. We know Sullivan's untrustworthy, etc. But like, there's no emotional attachment, and you've got to work with this guy, and you're thinking, I know West Ham is a massive club, and I know we're in the Premier League, and that's the main reason why we're in London, etc. It's all good, right? But as far as I keep hearing, and as far as I've researched, Steiden's got a big contact list. He's got a very good repertoire throughout Europe, so he's respected and he's an armoured, and he could basically go, "Look, West Ham are lucky to have me." That's the gist that I've been getting from football in general, not just from West Ham.
No, mate, he's built his team up there. His brother's there.
If you know that you're not going to have the head coach that you want or that you want to work with, and you kind of got he's got no excuses. For me personally, Steiden is like just as much to blame as someone else's.
But it's like me and you, for instance. If you're the owner and I am the scout, the owner's going to have the final say. Like that is the problem. And if he goes, right, I can't get Graham Potter, I can't get Alma in because he don't want to come. I'm going to go for Julian Lopetegui because he's there, right, and he's the only one available. Why is Steiden going to argue with that? He's got no reason to argue that, has he?
I'll be honest with you, mate. There's a lot of egos in this football. I don't believe anyone just goes, right, that ain't my decision. But again, if you've got a reputation yourself, like for me personally, I actually, in a small way, don't believe Steiden's here for a long-term project himself. I think personally, he's here to make his name at West Ham, like he did at Leverkusen, and then go, right, I'm going to go to Man City in 5 years' time. I'm going to go here, and I actually don't personally think he's here for West Ham for.
I think he's Lou. I think he's here. I think he's here for a longish project to see how it goes at West Ham.
Yeah.
Because what you can't really say he's done anything in 2 years. Like, all right, Kudus and Alvarez.
But my main point is the fact that if you've got a guy here like Lopetegui, if you're that good of a sporting director, director, and if you know your potatoes, right? And you've got context and everything like that. If you're as good as they say you are, as good as you think you are, and whatever, and the proof's in the pudding, right? Then you've got to make the best of that manager, of that head coach, right? So Moyes was already here when he got here, right? He couldn't do anything about that. Now Moyes is gone, and to an extent, there would have been dialogue between him and Sullivan, and football's a very. I don't think there's that many long-term projects in football to the point where you're going, right, do you know what, if I really don't like it, I'm off. So he must have liked it to an extent to go, I'm trusting you to get Kilman in for 40 million, probably the most expensive signing we made over the summer. I'm trusting you to work with the players I'm bringing in to the point where he's going to go, right, I'm putting my arm around you all through the summer. I'm with you. That he's got to make it work as just as much as Lopetegui has to make it work. And there's a lot of it in a minute. There's a lot of, well, I didn't want this and I didn't want that, and I never suggested this. And to do with the owners as well, I think there's a lot of media where they're going to media outlets like TalkSport, etc., whatever you want to call it, and say, well, it's all right, but he wasn't our first choice, that kind of thing. Like when it's not going very well, it's easy to go, it's Lopetegui's fault, it's all his fault.
But the problem is, Lou, the problem is no one will give any, like everyone looks at other people, but they don't look at Steidten and saying, well, hold on a minute, like the striker you didn't get right, the midfield's light, and what it is, for how good he has done, and he has done good, I'll give him his due. Todibo is an excellent signing. There is other sides of the coin where you look at it and think he hasn't done so good.
I can I got in the first place, hold my hands up and go, look,
Rodriguez is a bad signing, mate.
No, I think overall he's done.
I know where you're coming from.
I think overall he's done really well. Look, no one's going to hit on every signing. That's too much to expect.
But you have to be balanced, though, Tommy. That's the only thing I will say. You have to be balanced in it.
I think he's done well. I think Kilman looks a really good signing. Todibo looks a really good signing. Wan-Bissaka looks an excellent signing. Somerville looks a good signing. Rodriguez, we'll wait and see. Hasn't been too impressive so far. Füllkrug, the jury's out because we just haven't seen enough of him so far. So I think Guilherme obviously is 18. We won't know that for a little while. He
looked good when he come off, by the way. Side note, against the pitch, I think he looked lively when he come off.
I'll see him live over Dagenham Redbridge, and he looks like he could be a potential talent. The issue is that a lot of people will say about Steidten as the Messiah, but on that midfield front, and that midfield is light. Right, there's no choice about it. You look at that midfield, we're getting run through in that midfield quite a lot. We've got no energy in that midfield. And I look at Rodriguez as one, maybe. I know people say about Füllkrug, but when I look at John Duran or Füllkrug, it's night and day at the minute. Do you know what I'm saying? Let's be real. And, it's just where we want to be. The thing is, with us at present, we want to be competing for Europe. That's where we need to be. Like as a club that we are, and where we should be striving for, we should be competing for at least top 8, top at the very least. Yeah,
well, that's where it comes back to the manager for me, not Tim Steidten. I think with the players that we've got and he's had available to him, I think Lopetegui needs to fucking up his game because, frankly, in certain games, it's looked like the players are being managed by someone clueless. I don't know what the fuck they've been doing on the training ground. I can't see it on the pitch. Picking just ridiculous teams sometimes and square pegs and round holes. And,
I agree with you, mate.
Popping formations, at half time and making 3 substitutions, you have fucked up big time somewhere. That's what you're doing. Because, we've seen way too much of that, chopping and changing players in and out before and during games. The players are even saying they're frustrated because the Chelsea game, he switched up his tactics and starting 11 like shortly before the game, and you wonder why the players look completely fucking confused and all over the shop.
And he gave up in that game at all. He like at 3-0 down, he gave up. He started bringing Zandy Irving on and all that. And listen, I agree with you, mate. I'm not convinced by Lopetegui either. I think Lopetegui, in the next 4 games, you're going to see what he's all about. Spurs away, coming back, we all know that we don't want to lose that game. Now, if he goes there and he puts in a Chelsea-like performance, he will be hung out to dry because if they destroy us at White Hart Lane, that would be very much so. You know what I'm saying? Like, the problem is with Lopetegui for me is I can understand what he's trying to do with the possession-based game and all that. I get it, and he's like trying to control games and etc. But can he grind the result out when we're playing shit? That's the $1 million one. I don't think he can. I don't think he's got it in him, if I'm honest. I think he's like, when he's going good, we look good. When it ain't going so good, we fold like a deck of cards.
Well, he keeps saying in post-match interviews, doesn't he? He keeps saying, we want to just stay in games. We want to be able to just be able to stay in games. And I don't know if he means... I'll be honest with you, I don't know if he means actually at the start of the game at 0-0, we kick on, just to try and, if we can nick a goal here and there and then start playing good football, I don't know. Or if he just means when we're like 1-2, 3-0 down, that, he wants to keep it in the game so we can try and get come back into it. I don't know if that's what he means, but there does seem to be a slight kind of, I'm not going to say David Moyes mentality, but a kind of pragmatic. I'm not saying it, to me, it could exactly be the Spanish Moyes. I've not seen anything to say that he probably isn't at the minute. I'm hoping something changes in that regard because I wanted better football. That's why I wanted Moyes out. Fundamentally, I wanted to see better football being played. So this isn't my perfect appointment like it isn't many other people's, but he does come across as someone who wants to just stay in games and keep it tight and stuff like that. Which is, if it works, I can't moan. I can be frustrated, I can be disappointed, but I can't moan if he's getting results. But at the minute, he needs to stop being a bit more convincing. And in a minute, I don't have a fucking clue what he's doing. I genuinely,
I agree. Listen, the Ipswich game was a good result.
Yeah.
As a West Ham fan, but we all are, we expect to beat Ipswich at home. Now, Spurs away is a different story altogether. Like, we don't want to go there and get destroyed to a point. We want to go there and win. That's the attitude that we should have. So, for me, he's going to have to show something in the next two. Like Manchester United, if Manchester United come to the LS and we get done by them, then I'm going to be honest, and they are in the worst state. That it just isn't right. Now, 2-year deal with him, he's got to try and integrate a new style in 2 years. It takes years to do. Look, I'm going to bring him up, even though he's night and day. But Arteta at Arsenal, it took him a long time to get Arsenal where they are right now. Do you know what I mean? It didn't take 2 years. So I think Lopetegui's going to start working fast with the talent that he's got on.
Yeah, but I think the difference for me is, funnily enough, that you bring up, Arteta, because I remember when he came in and things weren't going well. I think they were at one point they were in 14th or something.
Yeah.
Arsenal fans were calling for his head, sack him, get rid of him, he's useless. But I remember actually arguing with Arsenal fans at the time on Twitter, saying you're mental. I said, give it time. And the reason I said that was because I could actually see what he was doing. I could see what Arteta was doing, on the field, changing the style of play, changing the kind of culture around the club. It was obvious to me anyway what he was doing. And I was saying to them at the time, Arteta's going to get you back into Champions League.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to get you Champions League football. He's going to make you a top 4 team again. Because I could see what he was doing and what he was implementing. And I said, just give it a bit of time. It looks to me like he's going to get you turned in the right direction. I really liked what I saw, actually, even though the results weren't coming yet. The difference for me with Lopetegui is I haven't got a clue what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
That's the difference to me.
I agree with you. Yeah.
But look, it is still relatively early. But I think, as I said last week when I was on here with Gatesy, it's I am patient, and I'm not calling, and haven't been calling for Lopetegui to be sacked. But I am worried because he's had the pre-season. We've played, is it 8 games in the Premier League? 7 Premier League games, plus every training session in between for however many weeks. And I was when I said to Gatesy, how long does it take really to get the players on the training ground and with the games that you've had to get them set up for how you want them set up and how you want them to play and get them all understanding your tactics and your approach and how we're going to be playing and the movement on and off the ball, with and without possession. It feels to me it shouldn't take this long to at least, regardless even if the results are a bit slow to come, we should at least be seeing, okay, this is how we play. This is how we're set up. This is what he's doing. This is what the players are asked to do. I haven't got a fucking clue still.
Yeah. Well, I watched it. There was a random YouTube channel that was really bigging up Lopetegui in a way he wanted to play. And they came up with this thing that they watched him in pre-season. I can't remember if it might be in the first or second pre-season game he played. And they said that basically he wants to play this high line. And then we're going to press from the front. The midfield will be compact. So basically, they won't be able to get through. This is ironic, really. They won't be able to get through our midfield. They will have to either go through the wings or over the top. And the main reason why he wanted to get Wan-Bissaka in is because Wan-Bissaka is quick, very good one-on-one, and a recovery challenger. So basically, the idea would be is that we would compact them so much on a high line. You know, how Brighton played against Chelsea the other week, got mullered by Cole Palmer, but fundamentally, their thing was to play a high line and maybe catch the offside trap. And I think that was their idea, was that the ball would go over the top, and the main reason we'd be getting a Wan-Bissaka in was he would be making recovery challenges. And at the time, I thought it was quite interesting. I was being open-minded towards it. I was like, okay, do you know what? If it works, it works. I think it's maybe a bit naive, just to that be your only tactic, which I think maybe wasn't what they were trying to say, but it was the idea of it. Unfortunately, the Chelsea game in particular completely just belted that idea out the window because it clearly didn't work. But there is this. I said, James, I don't know if I did it, or if you heard me say it, but basically Chelsea's manager came out the other week and he said, I don't know my starting 11. I don't know my best 11 at the minute. We've signed too many players at Chelsea for me to even think that I've got there yet. It's going to take me at least till, well, I presume he meant January, 6 months to find. So we have signed.
Well, as I said to you earlier, Luke, the difference there is we can see the way they play and the way they're set up to play.
Yeah, but they weren't at the start. At the start of the season,
and I guarantee you, Maresca knows 8 of his 11.
Yeah. Like, but wouldn't you say Lopetegui does know roughly his strongest team? Because if you look at it like this, goalkeeper picks himself, back four picks itself, Alvarez is in there, and then you're looking at maybe 2 central midfielders. So, like, but Alvarez, Quetta, and one more. So it's one midfielder you've got to pick out of Soler, Souček, etc., Rodriguez. And then the front three picks itself, Kudus, Bowen, and centre forward. Like, I don't think it's that. I think, personally, look, Lopetegui's a stubborn bastard, if I'm being honest. And I think he's stubborn in his approach. He's got this thing with Mo on the left when he doesn't need to play him on the left.
No.
He really doesn't. He's got Crescencio Somerville sitting there who can play on the left, and he's playing Mo on the left. So I think we've got to.
Somerville's got to be wondering, like, well, fucking, what have I got to do?
I think I'm being too nice with him in a minute. I'll be honest. I think I'm trying to give him every ounce of opportunity to change my mind, but there is a part of me that just goes. I think we've started to go. What are you doing? What are you
on the left, Luke?
What is this
on the left-hand side? That one really grinds into me because you haven't got to do it. You simply haven't got.
No, I agree. Yeah, so some, at least if you're going to play Kudus, you either play him on the right, which you can't because Bowen seems to be unmovable from there. Play Kudus in the 10. Either play Antonio. Well, like, if Bowen works, but me and you have had a chat before, James. I don't personally think he done well for Moyes. Bowen up top. I don't think he's going to get the same opportunity, the same service, or
he's a better person, though.
Or Bowen up front under Lopetegui as he would Moyes. But Kudus on the left is. I think he's one of. I think what he's trying to do, which is what all managers do at some point in their career, I'm sure, is they try and make it work. He's going to try and make Kudus work on the left.
But then what it is, no, you can't. I'm not
saying he's right. I'm not saying he's right to do it.
The other week, for instance, Brentford away, he gets hooked at half time. That game, if that game goes the wrong way and we lose that game, every West Ham fan will be saying, Julian Lopetegui, why the fuck are you subbing off man at half time? Yeah. He gets the result and he gets away with it. Yeah. He gets away with that moment, yeah. For me, Bowen up front, if you're playing a pressing game, you have Gerald up front. You have Bowen up front, you have Somerville on the left, you have Kudus on the right, and you have Paqueta as a 10 or as a floating midfielder. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand.
For me, that's on Lopetegui. And listen, I agree with what Tommy just said. I don't know what Crescencio Somerville's got to do to get in this side. Like, he had a decent-ish game against Chelsea. Decent. Yeah. Like, he gets hooked. After that, you don't see him again.
No.
That's him again.
Which is basically like this is like common carbon copy of Moyes for certain players. There are certain good games and you wouldn't see him ever again. So
as well as that, what's been frustrating for me in a lot of games, where I think, like, why are you playing 2 deep line midfielders? You don't always have to do that. Yeah. There's going to be lots of games. There's going to be lots of games where you can just play Alvarez, you know, as the holding DM, and you could, that frees up the whole thing for you ahead of that. you don't need Rodriguez on the pitch with Alvarez in a lot of these games, depending on who we're playing. I understand if we're playing a particularly good side, a very, very good attacking side, where you might want to have an extra bit of insurance policy in there in front of the back four. I can understand that. If he goes that way against City, I get it. I understand the thinking. But in a lot of the games that we play, you could just have Alvarez sitting, and you could actually play Kudus and Paqueta ahead of him, ahead of Alvarez as a pair centrally, and you could still have Somerville left, Bowen on the right, and whoever you want up top, whether it's Bowen or whether it's Antonio or Ings or Fulkrug if he's fit. I think too often he's a little bit too overcautious by wanting Alvarez and Rodriguez together beside each other, or Souček in beside Alvarez. I don't think it's necessary in a lot of the games.
Just as a side note, I don't know how long we're going to do this video for, but I'm going to potentially be putting my YouTube nick on the line here by saying this, right? But I had a little light bulb moment that could easily be turned off. I'm just going to put it out there. Now, Souček seems to be a bit 50-50 with people in the midfield. People understand why he's there. Some people don't like him in there, sort of thing like that. But people don't want to see Antonio start either, because Antonio is like we've already been over it anyway earlier on, right? How do people feel about having Souček up front? And all I'm going to say is these are the reasons why, right? Very good in the air, right? He's strong enough to hold players up. Right? He's clearly got an eye for goal, because he's always in the right place at the right time, and a lot of times when he does play for us and we're getting balls in the box and whatever, right? Not the quickest, can't run, can't which is basically near enough a bit like a Fulkrug, to be honest with you. We haven't bought him for his pace, have we? So if he seems to be a passenger in the midfield, which for me is most of the time, right? We want to play someone, but we can't. Fulkrug's injured. Ings is a bit. We don't really know what he does, to be honest with you. When he plays, like, we know we've got to put him, give him service, etc. Right? But if he's going to play for us, and Lopetegui obviously likes to play him, right? Is there a chance that he might be useful for us up front? Because I don't really see him being very useful in the midfield a lot of the time, because he just seems to be a passenger. The only time he comes alive is he's in either end of the pitch in the box, either clearing the header out defensively, or scoring a goal to nick us a point or 3 points up top. How do we feel about that? Shoot me down.
Not for me.
No, fair enough. No.
Not for me at all. And the reason being is if crosses are coming in, he's just going to get man marked.
Right.
How's that? Right. He's not got the pace to get in behind.
No, fair enough. But he manages to, though, doesn't he? He manages to somehow have a bit of a fox in the box about him.
Listen, but he's your sort of deep line midfielder. He's the one who sort of gets into the box late.
Right.
And he reminds me a bit, not as in like class wise, but as in like style wise, as Lampard years ago, jumping in the box late and scoring goals from midfield. Do you know what I mean? He's a good goal scorer for West Ham. Not centre forward though. I'm going to be honest.
Okay.
I think if we're playing this sort of possession-based style of play and everything, we're going to have to be with people on the ground. And that's why when people say about Bowen, I just think like Bowen through the middle, one, he presses on the front, presses very good. And two, one ball over the top or through the middle for him, he's away and he's on it. Do you know what I'm saying? Not for me.
No, good. But just to reiterate, in case people don't understand where I'm coming from, I'm saying because we aren't playing this free-flowing football at the minute, and he seems to be the guy that gets us out of trouble in some games. A lot of people think of him as, scored the goal against Brentford, and suddenly everyone was like, well, there's a reason why this man plays. He's a West Ham hero. He always saves us when we need him to save us. So I'm thinking, well, if we're going to play this sort of crash bang wallop sort of football where we're just trying to nick a point here and there and whatever, then for me it just makes sense. But could be naive there. Could be naive, which is fair enough.
Yeah,
We've got a clue how to react to that.
Yeah, I think it could be useful to chuck up top if you're really stuck for a goal and you want to start lumping balls in the box. He can create a bit of chaos.
Yeah.
But I think other than that, that's the only time I'd kind of chuck him up there.
That's where I'm coming from. That's where I'm coming from. I'm not coming from. I'm not talking a free flowing base football. Let's have him as the main striker for the whole time, even if you're playing good football. I'm being when it comes to certain.
It would be the ultimate shithousery, really.
That's what I'm on about. That's what I'm getting.
It would be the ultimate shithousery tactic to chuck him up top with Antonio and to just keep lumping balls up into the box. it was definitely. It would probably be a fun element to it. I'll give it that. It would be absolute chaos.
It would be mad, mate. Honestly, I'm not going to lie.
What's that? A mad club to the Sixers.
Yeah, no. Thing is, you got to do what you got to do. Like, we're going to throw centre halves up there and hope for a goal, and then we can chuck him up there. Do you know what I mean? So it don't really matter. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But he's it's a tricky one, though, isn't it? Let's be real.
It wouldn't. Let's put it this way, Luke. I wouldn't be terribly surprised if I ever saw it. If Fulkrug's out, let's say Antonio picks up a knock, he really doesn't want to play Ings from the start. He doesn't want to move Bowen off the right. I would not put it past him.
At least you two are kind of understanding where I'm coming from, rather than just saying I'm an idiot. So I'll take that.
Yeah, lovely.
You think you're just not saying it. It's fine.
Yeah, there's a part of me that just want to see that kind of shithousery, just lumping diagonal balls into the box all day, like Souček, and he'll come off the pitch as usual, probably with a bandage around his head and blood on his shirt and stuff. He's a warrior, that lad. But listen, we'll leave it there. We'll be going we're coming up on an hour and a half nearly. So really appreciate you both joining me, boys. Have you both on for your opinions. As always, thanks to everybody in the live chat. And if you're watching this back, I really appreciate the views on that as well. And obviously, look, a huge London derby away next week. Be brilliant to get something there, especially a win, however it comes. But, fingers crossed that we'll actually see our tactics and our setup start to come together and to actually look like a team that knows what it's doing going forward. It's about time now. I think he's had enough time with these players that we should be starting to see what exactly it is that we're trying to do and how we're trying to play. So fingers crossed we can start seeing a bit of that now and getting our season up and running. If not, it could be another long season. And Lopetegui might not see the new year out at West Ham, but fingers crossed it won't come to that. But until I don't think I'll be on next week, guys, because I'm actually going to be traveling down to Prairie to visit my mum, and I'll be driving. We'll be driving on Friday evening.
What's your prediction then, Tommy, for next week? If you're not going to be doing a show next week, what do you reckon on Spurs?
You know what? I'll be honest with you. As much as this season has not been good for us so far, for some reason, anytime we go to Tottenham, I just fucking fancy it. I just fancy it. And it's been, last season we didn't even play well. We turned them over. We've got a very nice habit of turning Tottenham over or getting something at their place in those games. So I always just feel like somehow we're gonna get something in that game. So I think I'm going to back us, off the back of that Ipswich performance. That must have felt good for the players. Kind of made a bit of a weight lifted off them where they've felt like they've played well. They've scored 4 goals. Nice weather. Everything just seemed to kind of go well that day, more or less. And I think that will have given everyone a lift. And obviously, it's a big London derby. I think the players are really going to be up for it. I think we'll take a point off them next week.
I think it's a big. I agree with you that it's Spurs. It's 12:30. It's a Saturday lunchtime. It's the first game back. Like, it means something. This game with Spurs will really decide it. If Lopetegui can really cut it, because he's going to know that the fan base are going to be on this one. This is one that we don't want to lose. Now, if he goes there and gets a point out of the game, but we play all right, then he'll get the respect for it. If he goes there and gets absolutely obliterated, then he ain't going to be looking good. But I don't know. I'm nervous on this one. I hate losing to them. That's one thing. Like we all hate losing to them. We all know a Spurs fan, and losing to them after their last game against Brighton, I think if we can get a goal early, then they might fold. But we need to score first if we're going to get anything out of this game.
So what do you think? Go on, James. Seeing as you asked.
Oh mate, you done me. I'm gonna say a draw. I don't think we win now. I don't think we're playing good enough to go there and win. But I think the draw is there for us. So I'll say a draw. Maybe 1-0, something like that.
Yeah, we always seem to go there and get something. I don't know why.
Yeah.
You've done yourself there, James, by the way, because you were going to end the video and you went, "What do you think of Spurs then?" So you know,
sorry, mate.
Yeah, you did. I'm going to the game as well, so I'm hoping we get a win. It's a weird. It's rival games are weird because you could be in the worst run in the world and suddenly you go and nick beat Spurs 3-0. Remember we'd done it for 2 years, 2013 or when it was. He was in quite a bad run at the time. And,
Super Rav, I remember that. I was there.
Yeah, that was it, and it was like no one understood it. No one saw it coming at all. When it was one of those games where
you know, like the 3-0, yeah. Everyone talks obviously for obvious reasons about that Ravel Morrison goal, but the touch and pass from Diame that put him in.
Yes.
Fucking hell, that was absolute quality.
News of discrediting Vaz Tay's ricochet.
Yeah, I got a bit lucky with that one. I love Vaz too.
Yeah, but we know Brendan Johnson's on this mad run. He scored again tonight for was it Wales, and so he'll get a goal. I don't know when he'll get a goal, and then we'll go and win 3-0. 3-1. Sorry, I think we'll go and do it. Our season is beginning to change. A corner's been turned, as the thumbnail suggests. I'm going to go ahead with that, and we're going to win because I'm there anyway. So it's my first game. I'm going to be real sick saying this, but at a proper stadium. But yeah, so it's going to be.
Do you know what my gut instinct is? Do you know what? Because they like to play a high line, and I think we can. I think the likes of if we play if we've got Somerville, Caduce, Bowen in there, one ball just takes one ball into one of those boys, and we're in behind. And I've got a weird gut feeling Caduce is going to just absolutely torture them.
Even if we go 2-0 up, we're still going to do them 3-2. That's my belief. That's even Brighton can do it, we can do it as well. So I don't care. We'll have them. We'll do them.
You've got me ready for this now, Luke. You got me ready for it, mate.
Boom, it's my job.
Yeah. All right, boys. Listen, really appreciate it, and obviously, look, we'll have you both on again very soon. Always great to hear your opinions. Again, thanks to everybody who's tuned in. Really appreciate it, and fingers crossed we can do those scummy fuckers next week. But until then, come on, you irons.